one of the main TV channels in France, has spent 300 days talking about Muslim. And it's like everyone watches this TV. It's like very common. Sometimes they were alone in rooms with only adults they didn't know, and they had to take off their dress.
They were
Yeah,
grooming young children. It
yeah,
looks like grooming, yeah.
clearly. And they left France not because they had good opportunities elsewhere, but because they had none in France.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So today we have Rania. She's from Paris. Assalamu alaikum, Rania.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us. So, Rania, you are the founder of Khlass, like Cliché, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Okay, so let's start with what does it mean? It's in French, so I'm not a French speaker.
Yeah, so it means um, class, and les clichés means stereotypes. So
Okay,
it's a way of saying stop preconceived ideas, and of course about Muslim women.
okay,
So it's yeah, stop stereotypes on Muslim women.
okay. So you started this channel about a year ago. When I checked your profile, you started this channel about a year ago, and you started by talking about Muslim women achievements, so successful Muslim women and their achievements. So after that, I do believe that you diverted your attention to something else rather than you talking. You started having people, and you started like posting. So, can you tell us a little bit about your project? What is the reason you started Khalas Le Cliché?
So it's a Instagram account slash small media about like you said, uh, presenting inspiring Muslim women, because I grew up in France with a lack of inspiring women icons. And in France, I think we're going to talk about this, but there's this huge homophobia, and Muslim women are the first targets of French Islamophobia. And what I believed, and I still believe, is that for some people, um, Islamophobia and racism and sexism is an issue of lack of knowledge. Not only, of course, it would be too easy to solve, but I think the lack of knowledge about what Muslim women can be or could be uh, is one of the issues, both for racist people or ignorant people, but also for the Muslim community. Because as a young Muslim woman growing up in France, you only hear bad stuff about Muslim, and especially Muslim women who are uh, all, I don't know, either objectified or presented as enemies of the Republic, or things like that, and especially quite submissive. So in France, I think most of people don't know that Muslim women, like the first university in the world was created by a Muslim woman, for example, or that Muslim women did so many great things, which is, of course, logical, because I mean, women did lots of great things, and of course, Muslim women statistically must have done some amazing things too. But I think people just forget it. So yeah, my first ambition was just to remind people, both Muslim and non-Muslim, that a Muslim woman can do basically whatever she wants if uh, she 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 tries or she works like any other girl. And also it was a way to fight sexism because Muslim women are women and they are also subjects of sexism, both outside and inside their community. So it was also a way to show that not only you don't need to be defined by preconceived racist ideas, but also you have choices, and you just don't need to lower your expectations because of sexist ideas, preconceived ideas. So yeah, that was the beginning, and after, like you said, it
Because
became.
I think you started your channel and then like 3 or 4 months later, the event happened in Palestine. So your focus shifted a bit on the on the bigotry, France's bigotry on Palestinian issues. So I did see that shift, and then I do see sometimes, time to time, you do post about women in space of achievements and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end, Khlass Cliché has always been about fighting Islamophobia and sexism.
Hmm.
It has always been about raising the voices of Muslim women who want to talk back. Because in France, I mean, it's crazy. Really, it's crazy being a Muslim woman in France because you uh, always hear the media, for example, talking about Muslim, and usually about Muslim women, like Muslim women wearing hijab or wearing abaya, etc. And well, yes, and for example, on 365 days last year. One of the main TV channels in France, which is BFM TV, has spent 300 days talking about Muslim. And it's like everyone watches this TV. It's like very common. So yeah,
300
and
days. I think
yeah,
they rather convert to
300
Islam
days.
right now.
Yeah, and but they never invite Muslim people, and especially not Muslim women, to talk back and to speak for themselves. So they always are talking about us, but never with us. And Khlass le Cliché has always been about talking back and raising our voices. So at first, indeed, as I said, I started by showing that Muslim women could do more, and but I also wanted to talk about discriminations and I mean what it is to be a Muslim in France in the 21st century. And yes, when the event in Palestine occurred, uh, I think I started to. I wanted to talk about this, and I didn't know how Khlass le Cliché could have an impact. So I started to present Muslim women from Palestine who um, had some achievements, and there were many. And then I I I've decided that I also wanted to talk about the actuality and the news from a Muslim women's point of view.
Hmm.
So that's what I did, and that's what I do now. And yeah, so today it's more diverse. I still present Muslim women, not in videos like I used to do, but usually by writing articles.
Hmm.
But I also talk about the actuality in France and
You
yeah,
write
what it's
articles,
like
you
to
said,
be.
like, do you publish these articles on a website? Because I don't know if, I mean, are these articles on Instagram or are these on a different platform?
For now, they're only in Instagram, but now I'm working with a team, a little team of 5 girls, and we also want to create another platform. But for now, it's only on Instagram. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, you have an excellent team, definitely. I have to agree. The
Thank
branding and the things are
you.
really nice, mashallah. So,
Thank you.
I think I'll go for the next question. A little bit about what is happening with the hijab ban and the abaya ban. Like, how do you reconcile? Because I don't know how like are women under 18, are they wearing abayas or hijab, or is it still like hassle? How does that work between you and French government? I mean, not
Um,
you in the sense like Muslim
yeah,
women versus the government.
yeah. Um, well, the French government has always had an issue with Islam and with Muslim women, particularly. Well, men also, but it's different. Muslim women have always been viewed, I think, at least since the colonization,
Hmm.
as uh, an objective because it's a very sexist way of seeing women, of course, but the fact that they covered up meant that the French colonizer couldn't access to them. And back then, there were clear writings about the fact that unveiling Muslim women
Hmm.
was military, I think we say,
Militarily, yes.
yeah, objective. Um, so yeah, and from this time, like there were unveiling public ceremonies and French suffragettes, which were the feminists back then, who went on the countryside of Algeria to tell Muslim women that they have to to free themselves from hijab and from Islam. Yes, from then, sorry, France has always had an issue with the way Muslim women behaved and were dressed. So I think it never left. And basically, after that, Algeria became an independent country, alhamdulillah, and but some Algerians became and Tunisian, Moroccan, people
The
from
North
Senegal, and all
African.
the yeah,
Hmm.
but all the ancient colonies began to come in France to find a job, and then like in the 90s or so, the French government started to create different laws about the ban of hijab in schools because until the 90s it wasn't an issue. Like some of the young Muslim women who went to school with hijab could attend class with their heads covered up, and it wasn't an issue. But in the 90s, the there was a first a case of three young girls who were expelled from their schools for wearing a hijab, even though the law didn't say anything back then about that. So yeah, from then there were laws, and each law were worse than the previous one. So it
Hmm.
was always about yeah, you don't have the right to wear a hijab first, and then you don't have the right to wear I don't know how to say it in English, but in French we say un bandeau, so it's like just a small piece of cloth that some girl wear on their hair, but non-Muslim women too, like just to make it pretty. A headband, yeah, headband were prohibited for Muslim women, so basically for Arab girls, because you can't say if someone is Muslim, right? I mean, you could be, if you were blonde, you could wear a headband, but if you were Muslim, or if you were Arab, there was a risk you were Muslim and you were wearing your headband just to cover up your hair. So yeah, you couldn't wear that. It's not
So first
Okay.
this. Hmm. Go ahead, please,
Yeah.
please, please.
And then afterwards, in 2004, and then in 2033, so last year,
23. Yeah.
there were 23, sorry, there were these huge laws about, yeah, you cannot wear hijab and you cannot wear now a abaya. So
Hmm.
basically just a long dress. And it's kind of like so absurd, because what is abaya? I mean, uh, it's just a dress, right? It's
Yeah.
the and so yeah, and it started this kind of what I call a witch hunt, because clearly in front of every schools there were uh, like the head of teachers or things like that, who were checking that every Muslim girl took off their hijab and were not wearing too long dress. But what is too long? No one knows. So it was like each school could decide if your dress was short enough
Hmm.
or was I don't know if you showed enough skin to come inside the school and attend the class. And that is uh, quite, yeah, it's very absurd, but it's also very sexist and, of course, Islamophobic, because these young people, these young girls, were undressed in front of old men who they
Hmm.
didn't know. They were the only. Sometimes um, they were alone in rooms with only adults they didn't know, and they had to take off their dress, and like it was so uh,
They were
yeah,
grooming young children. It
yeah,
looks like grooming. Yeah.
clearly, clearly, and so yeah, and it was very well, we heard about it a lot in the medias last year. We don't hear it about it so much now, but yeah, it's still going on. I mean, it became normal, and in France, it's just like that. Like you think uh, it's going to you think that people are going to, I don't know, to act or to be revolted about something or another, but yeah, it just became normal. Like you
Hmm.
cannot wear clothes that are like this at school. So I think just
So my
yeah.
question would be, what is the how loud are the feminists right now? I mean, it's a women's issue, so are they helping you out in any way, or are they silent?
Well, it depends. There are a lot of feminists who uh who are helping out actually, but
Hmm.
it's not the feminists that we hear, because the state hates uh, Muslim, but they also hate people who do not hate Muslim. So, and there's also there's even a word for that. The people who are who are friends with the Muslim or just
Allies,
don't,
yeah, allies
yeah,
of
yeah, who
Muslims.
are,
Yeah.
yeah, well, who are allies. They called Islamo-gauchist, which is Islamo leftist, and it's like an insult in the politics in France. Because yeah, I mean, you defend rights of Muslim and you're not a Muslim. I mean, are you a terrorist of some kind of, And so yeah, there are lots of feminists who do help us. However, the loudest feminists are the ones who like are white. It's a white feminism, and it's yeah, it's like uh they
So the
hate Islam
celebrities,
basically.
I'm talking about the
Yeah.
celebrities because I'm not talking about the young, I mean, the average person. The average person does have friends and they have nothing to lose, but the celebrities are
Mm.
different. They can represent themselves as feminists, but then they have a lot of things to lose, like their fame, their money, So that those are the
Mm.
people I'm particularly asking. They are very quiet, it seems.
Um, well, France does not like feminists at all. So,
Are you seriously telling me France does not like feminists?
no, really, yeah, because the only, I mean, what I call a feminist, because the only feminists you're going to hear in the media are very old white women who are going to talk about, yeah, freeing the women from their hijab, or, but never talking about the real issues women face daily, which are rape, or um,
Harassments.
uh, harassment, or jobs inequity, etc., etc.
I mean,
But
remember when you had this little movie about a girl from Somalia? I think it was a French movie. 6-year-old girl. She comes from Somalia, but then she goes on a dance competition or something.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
that's what my perception would be about France, like to expose.
Yeah, it's basically that. It's like there's, for them, there's like one image of what the free women should look like, and if you do not look like that, you're not free, so you are an enemy. And well, feminism isn't about that, of course, but in France it's about that. And
About
the
objectifying
only,
women.
yeah, about objectifying women, even though they do not say it, of course, but it's what I believe and it's what I see. Because whether it's to defend Muslim women or defend other women, but attacking the government, which is
Mhm.
really sexist in France, um, we don't hear those voices. They are silenced.
So
Silenced.
where are these young girls right now? Are they wearing abayas and hijabs? Are they wearing to school or no, not at
No,
all?
no, hijab, no. I mean, you cannot wear hijab at school, at the pool, in some sports. You cannot wear hijab uh, for some jobs. Hijab in France is like you cannot wear it anywhere, any place, except in the streets or at home. But you don't need to wear it at home. So yeah, and there's like
So,
no
do you think people
question
are,
about it.
so do you think people
But
are gonna stay or they would rather remove their hijabs or do you think they might, people are considering, because I've heard from some sources that people are leaving France. So
yeah,
is it true or is it more like, yeah, people are rather, they choose to take off their hijab?
well, people who have the chance to leave, usually they do. So there's this study that was released, I think it was this year, this summer, from a French sociologist about Muslim um, people who had lots of degrees, who left France. And they left France not because they had good opportunities elsewhere, but because they had none in France, even though they had PhDs or master's degree, etc.
One question, because I
Yeah.
always get confused with France. When they're leaving France, are they leaving the Isle de France, or are they going to like, are they also leaving like French Polynesia or Corsica,
Oh.
or are they leaving those lands as well? Like, do these rules apply there as well?
I honestly have no idea because the France
French
continental, like in
overseas
Europe,
territories, yeah.
yeah, the overseas territories are basically colonies, right? And we do not hear about them at all. For example, right now there are manifestations because in lots of overseas territories of France, because the life there is very very expensive, even though they produce majority of the things they consume, just because they don't own it. The France own it, so it's very expensive. So they fight against this colonial power that is still France. But we don't hear about this. So I actually don't know about Muslim on the overseas territories, because I never hear. I just know that, for example, in La Réunion, which is an island, which belongs to France. There are lots of Muslims, and they live quite well because historically they've always been there, and I guess that France don't really care about. Uh, I mean, France only cares
The
about
European part
the
of the
yeah,
France, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
It's just like, for example, in La Réunion, they still fight
Where
the
is this place? It's in French, so I don't know. Where is it? Is it in Europe or is it like somewhere in Asia?
it's in South in the ocean in Indian Ocean, next to Africa, in the south of Africa.
Okay, close to Madagascar or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, just next to Madagascar.
Okay.
And so I know that Muslim over there seem to live uh, quite
So
better,
the people, the
but
Muslims, mhm.
I'm not sure. I know that actually in France, well, in European France, uh,
So they're the ones who are
it's
emigrating.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and they leave for even for I mean Belgium, which is like the next door, but it's just that France is so oppressive towards Muslim that even having an Arab name, because some Muslim uh, do not even, I mean, they just are Arabs. But in France, racism towards North Africans and Islamophobia is very intertwined. So some people who just are North African, but they are not Muslim, they also are perceived as Muslim, so they also suffer Islamophobia,
Hmm.
and they live as well. And so yeah, there is this huge part of over achievers who have so many diplomas who leave, but because they have the ability to leave, I mean, they have either money or they have these diplomas which will allow them to find a job elsewhere.
Hmm.
But lots of French people cannot leave. Well, French Muslim cannot leave because they either don't have the money or they do not want to because their family is in France. So there are lots of Muslim living France, but there are even more staying. And so for them, they I think everyone does the makes the choice that
Hmm.
he or she has to.
If they
Some
have the
choose
opportunity,
to,
as you said, they leave.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
if they have the opportunity they leave, but some who have the opportunity do not want to leave or cannot, because if I mean, if your whole family is in France and your parents are sick, or I don't know, you want to stay in France because you grew up there. Some people choose also to stay, but for those people, they make the choices that they can, because some of them really have to work, so they take off their hijab to work and then they put it back on when they go out of the workplace, or some choose to not work, or to work in something that is
Quite authoritarian towards Muslims, right? It feels like
yeah.
an authoritarian government towards Muslims,
Clearly,
particularly. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
In France, you cannot.
mhm.
Sorry.
No, no, please go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that in France, you cannot be something else that the the idea of the French people. I mean, contrary, for example, if you take England, where of course there is racism also, but I feel like people can quite be who they are. But in France, it's like uh, if you want to be French, you have to be French with a capital F. So you cannot wear a hijab, you cannot be black, you cannot, I don't know, I don't know, you cannot be something else that this
It's a
secular
state
republic.
it's a
Yeah,
state legislated culture, or what does it
exactly.
mean to be French? Okay. Very authoritarian, unfortunately. So, yes. So, I think I'll digress a little bit towards a different topic. Your about Khlass le Cliché. So, what have you achieved so far? Are you more like a media agency to like bring out these Muslim figures that's lost in history? So, are you more like a media agency, or do you help Muslim women to who have troubles, or like let's say widows, or something like that?
No, for now we're only on the media part.
Hmm.
So, and our main goal is to stay in media actually, because one of our fights is against the French medias who always talk about Muslim women as what I said earlier. So we only stay focused on this part, which is actually a big issue in France because most of the medias are owned by like few billionaires and they all say the same thing all over again. And so our main struggle is to fight these stereotypical idea about Muslim women, and the way we chose to do it is by writing and making videos. So only a media. Yeah.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. I mean, it's something at the end of the day. So,
Yeah.
why limit to only France? Why not expand it to other countries? I mean, even French-speaking countries like Switzerland, Belgium, they also have Islamophobia in their own way, of course. Germany, definitely. I mean, the recent events with what's happening. So why don't you
Mhm.
expand there as well? Because I mean, you can represent a Muslim women thing within the European frame. Perhaps you can start there. Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Maybe in the future. I think in France we have so much to do,
Definitely.
considering the context. But
It's more
in
like
the future, why not?
support here.
It's probably well, it's mainly because of the possibility we have. I mean, we do not work. We are volunteer. It's like a free job, Class Cliché.
Hmm.
We all have our studies or work besides that. So I think it's just we for now want to concentrate of the all our attention on France because there is so much to do in France. Because, for example, the CCIE, so it's like uh, an organization which fights Islamophobia in Europe, uh, works, I think, like 80 or 70% of their time in France because, well, on French cases, because there are so much Islamophobia in France that even though they are present in Europe, they still work mainly on France, on French cases. So I think for now, I mean, France will take all of our time, and maybe in the future, why not open it up in other countries? But I
Inshallah.
think for now, it's not one of our projects.
Inshallah. Inshallah. I mean, hopefully you
Inshallah, yeah,
expand it.
yeah,
So
inshallah,
you said something about CCIE. Because France has about close to 6 million Muslims, close to. And same numbers are in Germany, almost 5.5, something like that. And believing that it's 80% of those cases in from France, because I heard from another person that I interviewed last time. He said CCI, it was previously CCIF and now it's
yeah.
CCIE. They've moved to Belgium and they're still fighting French cases. So, what is the best way to, integrate? Because I think most of these cases sometimes are even lost in other countries, like let's say Hungary or Czech Republic. Most of these people don't even know that such organizations exist, and with Germany and France and Belgium, how can people know about organizations like yours, and how can you reach out to more organizations?
Um, I mean, I think the CCIE is quite known, but mainly probably in France and Belgium and in the countries where they actually work, uh, because they were CCIF, like you said before, so that's why French people know them, I think. But how can people know us? I think it's our job to start being known. And
Both organizations.
uh,
I mean, CCIE
yeah,
and Khalas like Cliché,
yeah,
sorry.
and no problem. Yeah, and yeah, there are so many organizations actually. Besides CCIE, there are lots of Muslim organizations towards Europe. And I think if you look for them, you will find one because in France there are actually not so many, but once you know one, usually they all gravitate around the same spheres.
Hmm.
So you start to know the other ones. But yeah, I mean, being on the following them on their social medias
Social media.
is one
Okay.
way, and
Hmm.
maybe just trying to involve also like when you start to create a project. When I started Khlass le Cliché, I didn't know that there were so many other Muslim activists who were doing who were fighting the
Hmm.
same fight. And I think when you try to get involved in the fight, you end up figuring out that you're not
More
alone.
people, yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's also a good way to find these organizations.
sure, definitely. So, next, what are your next projects in Khalas like Cliché?
The main one is creating our website, which is taking us some time right now. Yeah, so that's the big one because for now we've only wrote articles on Instagram, but it's a social media. People are not there to read big articles, so we're
Hmm.
trying to write lots of ideas in small posts, and that's why we wanted to create a sort of blog so that people can actually like Muslim women can actually write longer um, pieces, papers. And so, yeah, that's our next project. And inshallah, I hope it will be out soon.
Inshallah, inshallah. So, Rani, the next question I have for you would be sexism in from within the Muslim community. I'm sure you have been facing Muslims, being bashful to you, or not just to you, but even in general towards Muslim women. So, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. Unfortunately, being a woman on the internet in general is quite difficult because men are, not all of them, of course, but some men are very sexist and they believe that their opinion is worth sharing even though we did not ask. And unfortunately, it does happen inside the Muslim community. For example, in France, I believe that one of the issues uh, of course, like the majority of Muslim men are not like that, but unfortunately, it's always the minority that
Loudest.
is the loudest, yeah.
Hmm.
And so there are some especially young Muslim men in France who I think because of the colonial background of or yeah the way French North African became French. I mean, the migration, etc. We didn't learn. We most of a lot of Muslim in France do not speak Arabic, so we learn Islam through French predicators. and
Hmm.
some young people learn from French educators on social media, for example, TikTok. And because they are young and yeah, because they probably don't know a lot about Islam, they are very like everything is either black or white. Like there's not lots of uh, shades. I don't know if it's okay in English, but like nuance.
Spectrum of
Yeah,
people. Yeah.
spectrum. Yeah. No, no, no. It's it's more about the spectrum of what is permissible in Islam and what is not.
Hmm.
And for example, yeah,
Women is working.
Muslim.
Astaghfirullah.
Yeah, for example, that. Or a woman is not wearing hijab. I mean, it's not your issue, brother. With, I mean, it's hers. And even though you want to tell her something, I mean, you do not have to because you do not know her. And the comment section of of an Instagram or TikTok post is not the place to do so. And or there are women who wear hijab, but some men believe that it's not wore correctly, so they're going to insult her in the comment section, and in the end, the woman is going to take it off because she was just harassed for wearing hijab on a certain way. And first of all, uh, do you imagine the sin that you're committing when you force a sister who is working her way towards hijab uh, to not wear it in the end because you said to her take it off, it's better because you're not wearing it correctly. It's like one of the most common comments, I believe. There are so many
You
young
believe?
uh,
Okay, I don't know. I'm not really checking those comments much. So
yeah, yeah, I'm seeing so much of those these kind of stories are I don't know, like so many yeah, astaghfirullah, why are you talking to men on Instagram, talking on Instagram, even though, or for example, when we talk about women achieving things, because that's what Khlass Cliche was about. um I mean, some of them, some comments are even funny because there was this astronaut who happened to be Muslim, a Muslim woman, and like some dude commented, "Astaghfirullah, she should be in the kitchen and she goes to the moon." It's it's funny, but what? And yeah, so there is lots of sexism based on
that
uh,
is a very astonishing comment. Like she should be
yeah,
in the kitchen. It's a
yeah,
very Western idea. We don't have such things in like she belongs to the
yeah.
kitchen or something like that. Yeah.
No, and I mean there are so many ways of being a Muslim woman just by, I mean, all the examples we have of important and smart Muslim women in our Islamic history. But I believe that these people, these young men, do not know about any of that, and they also, I think, these kind of comments are like the intersection of sexism and, I wouldn't say Islam. I think they think it's Islam. What they believe is Islam, and but it's just a way to express their sexism, because
Is it
Islam
due
is
to
not.
lack of knowledge about
I
Sahabi?
believe, yeah, yeah, I believe so.
Mhm.
I think it's a lack of knowledge, not only about Sahabia, but also about the good behavior a Muslim should have, because even though, let's imagine, something is not correct, there are ways to tell it to one another, and there also is humility to have, because who are you to comment something? Maybe this woman who is not wearing hijab is a very good person and has a very good um, I don't know, a very good education, or is doing charity, or I mean, you do not know this person, or maybe she has a great load of knowledge,
Or maybe she's
and
16 or 17 and she can't wear it
yeah,
in school.
also,
Yes.
yeah,
France, she's in
yeah.
France. Yes. Yeah.
So, and I believe that the first thing to do for every one of us is to look firstly at ourselves and who, like, am I legitimate to give this advice like in public? It's quite a responsibility. So yeah, and I think that's maybe the intersection of sexism and actually social medias, because it's way easier. I do not hear people like Muslim men in the streets calling out sisters and telling them you should take off your hijab. I think the freedom social
Of being
media gave
anonymous
people,
and
yeah, I think it creates such a dark way to interact with one another.
definitely it is
And
toxic. The internet is toxic. I mean, in different matters, political or like anything. I do see a lot of sometimes it's humorous, sometimes they're just silly. But
yeah,
yeah,
sometimes
the
I mean, the internet is great, but sometimes it's just also very dark. And I think that's one of the ways it can be dark. It gives the power to certain people and certain men to
give out
harass
their lost
women.
dark
Yeah,
thoughts. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think
So,
that's it.
what about you spoke about young men. What about older generation? Do you find the pressure from I'm not talking only about men. Older generation can be men and women. Do you find pressure from them to the younger generation because there's a generation gap? So, do you find
Uh,
any pressure from them as well?
on a specific
From the
subject, I think.
elders to the younger generation? Let's say work, related to work, let's say related to education. So
Oh,
some
okay.
cultural differences because most of the French people are immigrants, and
Mm-mm.
sometimes they do pressure younger generation to go out and work or don't work, or it can be depends on the family conditions. So what do you think
Mm,
is the
yes, I think that it must be the same. I believe for every immigrant in every country, but usually what I've seen in France and what I've experienced is that um, for an immigrant, the I mean, for if I yes, for immigrant parents,
so the
the
pressure on
goal,
young women
yeah,
particularly?
the goal is actually to be successful and to because they have taken so much from these oppressors and they didn't say anything because they could not. So they want you to be the best at school and to have a great job and to have a lot of money so you can have financial security. So I think that's the first pressure I would have in mind. But I believe that the younger generation, for example, I am third generation in France, so it was my grandparents who came in France. I do not have these expectations, nor for myself or for anyone. I believe that because these expectations were because they believed we are not French, we have to fit in, so we have to work double the work, etc., etc. And I believe I am French. I mean, I was born here, and even my parents were born in France. In France, so I have nothing to prove. And if I do want to go to school, it is for me not to prove to anyone anything, and if I do want to work, it is for because I will once I don't know, like this job is interesting, not because it has so much prestige in the eyes of the French colonizers.
Mhm.
So I
I mean,
believe
because
that
I'm asking you that question because, like, the particularly the French narrative would be, okay, she is a hijab wearing woman, so her family must be forcing her to get married and Like,
Oh no. uh, no, I don't think so. I mean, like every parent, but immigrants or not, I believe that once I don't know, maybe 25 or older, once you've done all your studies and you have the job, maybe they're going to start talking to you about a family. But the first pressure we have is school, and that's actually funny because one of the stereotypes is like Muslim girl are forced to not go to school. They are taken away. They are submissive, so their parents and their fathers, their brothers want them to stay at home. Whereas in the reality, Muslim women usually are the first student in their class. I have had so much
so parental
testimonies
pressure,
in this.
right?
Yeah. So the parental pressure is not is real, but it's not what they believe it is. It's like you have to go to school and you have to not talk back. You have to listen to the teachers, etc., etc. So it's like the quite opposite of what they believe it is. And I have had so many testimonies of Muslim women who are like the best student in their class or even in their whole school because of this culture of work and like parents encouraging us to go to school because in Islam also learning is so important in every field. So it's like the opposite of what they believe we are. So yeah, that's the only kind of pressure I would think about.
Definitely. I mean, that's why I was trying to go to understand the
Okay.
Islamophobia versus the culture. So I think a little bit on the a little bit about Islamic. So how can you have a sisterhood, and how does Islam help sisterhood to connect?
I think that sisterhood is so important. Like I myself have the chance to have sisters, indeed. So I've always grown with women, but even though I have like blood sisters, I think it's so important to have a community of women around you who, first of all, because they face the same things as you face. Because as I said, the experience of a Muslim woman is very specific because you have to face racism, sexism, Islamophobia. It's like there's lots of different layers of discrimination that maybe your brother is going to face racism and Islamophobia, or maybe your non-Muslim friend is going to face sexism. But I think it's so important to have a like-minded women who are here to support one another and with whom you can just be yourself and acknowledge each other's path and struggles.
How do
And
we achieve that? Because especially women, I mean, nowadays you have a lot to do. Like you have to study, you have to work, you have to balance that. And most women don't even, I mean, at least it's obligatory for men to go to masjid and pray 5 times. Like women aren't obligated. So how do you connect? How do you keep connected? Or if not, like if people do have challenges, how do you encourage them to connect and be in contact?
I think it's quite a challenge actually, because yes, as you said, we can be very isolated, isolated, especially if you don't live in a big city. But I think that one of the good sides of the social medias is that is you can actually find communities of women. There are some Instagram accounts that are especially dedicated to that, like sisters in Paris or sisters in Montreal or etc. Just because Muslim women tend to know that it is quite difficult to find one another if we don't try uh, to do so. So I think social media is a good way to connect with other sisters and
Mm-hmm.
to meet new one. So yeah, we talked about
This is
earlier
strong and
about the dark
united,
side.
yeah. Yeah.
So there are also good sides. Yeah.
social media. One important question I forgot to ask you about when we spoke about the dark side of internet, also about young people sometimes, although they're minorities, how do you, um, I mean, of course, there's toxic femininity as well. Uh, is that if that's a word or feminism? How do how do we, you know, segregate, or let me think of a word, proper word. Maybe you're getting it, what I'm saying. How do we understand that this is actually not Islam? Because men are worried about toxic feminism, which is coated, sugar-coated as like Islam sometimes, or sometimes it's genuine, sometimes it's toxic feminism itself. So for women itself, like what can you give one or two examples of toxic femininity and how to balance it for both men and women, how to save ourselves,
Hmm,
how to identify it. Rather, my question would be how to identify this if this is toxic or not.
um, I think what is toxic is actually the way that people are mean to one another, like even women to one another. Like, I think lots of women also have a certain idea of what a woman should be. And I mean, it's okay if you are convinced that a woman should do this or that, but I don't believe that you should impose an idea on someone else. So that's toxicity. It's when you take one very cliche idea, like very stereotypical idea, and you try to force it on every woman you see, as if women could not be uh, as if there wasn't a large spectrum of what women could be. And I believe toxicity between women is a kind of uh, I don't know how to say it in English, but in French we say misogynie intériorisée.
Unfortunately,
It's
I don't speak French. Telling me French words is not going to help.
Oh, sorry. It's when women or absorb the sexist ideas and
Hmm.
repeat it on one
Hmm.
another. For example,
So they reflect these ideas, okay.
like believing that women are by essence enemies to one another. Like
Hmm.
women can be friends because women on the talk badly about each other when when one is on here, etc., etc. It's basically a very sexist idea, but I've heard so many women think that, like, I have no friends, no female friends, because I believe that we cannot be friends because women are like this, and it's very toxic. And so, yeah, I believe that all this toxic femininity you're talking about, for me, it's just that a consequence of sexism, and
Hmm.
like they have learned the same way I've learned Islam the same way the other brothers we were talking about earlier learned it as well.
From
But
the
it's
internet, yeah.
even like it's even sadder because they are the women, so they talk, they think badly of themselves, they think badly of other women, and yeah, that's what I
Hmm.
would believe is toxic.
Sure. I mean, I was hoping to get an answer more like, looking up to Islam and some advices how to learn from Sahabiyas and stuff like. I was
Oh,
hoping to get
okay.
some answer, something like that, but I am
I
sure
thought
you
you were
have that.
okay. Yeah, I thought you were talking
Is
about
it? Hmm.
like the comments because as I was talking about men earlier, you wanted like
Hmm. As a role
the
model,
mirror
because
part.
of course we look back to our role models like the Prophet and the Sahaba. So I was hoping maybe you can guide us how to go back and look at some female figures because I'm sure you've spoken some Sahabiyas as well.
Yes,
So if, mhm.
yes. But well, I mean the how to go back and just to read. I believe that just to learn about their story. There are so many
I mean, there's so many
women,
Sahabiyas, so
like
how do
even
you identify?
yeah.
Maybe you could do a program of like just talking about Sahabiyas achievements, like everyone.
I think that knowing about the multiplicity, indeed, of Sahabiyas and the diversity in their personalities and what they achieved is a good way to understand that a Muslim woman can be like this and can
All
be like
this.
that. She
Yeah.
can be dedicated to her family and her home, etc. She also can be a soldier. For example, Nusayba was a Sahabiya, and she fought alongside men, and she defended the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
on the battlefield, and she was a great Muslim back in her time, so a Muslim woman. So I think knowing the diversity of what existed back at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a good start, I think, just to reading and learning about their stories.
Inshallah. So inshallah, I think we'll wrap up here. Jazakallah khair. Do you want to add anything else to the video?
No, maybe just to remind Muslim women that even though they might hear the contrary, they can be whatever they want, and to always believe in themselves, and to always learn about the history of Muslim women, because I think it's very powerful what a good role model can do to you and to your ambitions and to your self-love. So yeah, would
Inshallah,
be my
inshallah.
comment.
So how can people reach out to you if they want to, or you're like, don't contact me? Which one is it?
On Instagram, we are very we always try to answer to all our DMs, so or
Mm-hmm.
Instagram.
Sure. So Jazakallah khair. We'll stay in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Assalamu alaikum.